like you saw at the start of the presentation, the rebel view command that started the graphical demo. Here is a similar view command in Red System, and it includes a domain-specific dialect for GTK and specifically the WebKit widget. So here you have a GTK vertical box. The window is implied in the view command. Here you say that you want to maximize that window because it's a web browser, but you can choose that yourself, so you can easily write a browser that does or does not maximize. The 0 is for packing it tightly so that no margin space is lost. And then you have a GTK field dialect word that has an inline action dialect. And this is a get word syntax, the column. And the get word gets the memory address of the address function that's specified here. And the address function is declared as a callback with C callback function, so that's a very low-level binary hint. And then the address callback makes it so that if you here is the field box, the address bar on the top of the web browser, and if you type a new URL and press enter, the callback is called, and that will make the browser widget, which is really the WebKit GTK widget. It will make this browser widget display the new URL from the text field, and that again has a few parameters for its makeup, its presentation. It also says that it wants to be packed tightly with 0 space. And this is a low-level Red System function to implement the callback. But this is really in 15 lines or so your own web browser. And this is not even Red yet, the high-level language. This is still Red System, the low-level language. And even in there you have what C calls runtime type information, and that is used to construct a really low-level dialect that is polymorphic and that can handle GTK widgets specified at a very low level. So if you compile this, as we saw with the Red compiler, you get a 33 to 66 kilobyte web browser. But if you compile this with the Red System compiler, the really low-level compiler, it's only 22 kilobytes, I think. So that's a web browser in 22 kilobytes through a dialect specifically for GTK, and an addition specifically for the WebKit widgets inside GTK. And this is only the beginning. This is really low-level Red System. So with the Red language that we're constructing now at a Rebel-like level, it becomes much more dynamic than this even, and you can make really neat dialects. And it's all on the same semantic basis. There's no impedance mismatch between a very low level and a very high level. Now I'm 20 minutes over my time, so it should really stop here. But maybe it would be a nice idea to fix the gap between now and the engineers and beers.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts from the audience?
Where do you see Red being deployed or used for when it eventually becomes
Everywhere.
bigger?
Because the Rebel was meant as the successor to the Amiga operating system. So there's a more or less far-fetched plan to make Rebel into its own operating system. But it would have to be written in C, simply, the core. So you would have Amiga OS all over again, with Rebel as the programming layer on top of it. And we're going a fundamental step further. We're allowing to write that underlying operating system in Red System, completely getting rid of C. And we can do bindings very easily because we have a dialect for bindings. So we can do bindings very elegantly. So we bind to the C library and to GTK and to WebKit, all the things that Rebel never wanted to do. Because Rebel always wanted to make a new Amiga operating system. So it's very isolated. It builds its own world. And its inventor doesn't want to do all the bindings that we're doing in Red. It doesn't want to bind to GTK because it has its own cross-platform GUI dialect that you saw. And we're doing it differently. We're doing the same language with the same power, but we integrate with all the open source that exists by now after 15 years of Rebel. So the world changed underneath Rebel. And we're doing it in a different model. We're doing it to add value to the existing open source code. But at the same time, because we have the same Rebel concepts, we are able to build our own operating system on an Arduino board with not even a BIOS ROM in it. We can build our own operating system directly on top of the processor. Eventually we will be able to write our own kernel, our own device drivers. So on the one hand we can integrate with all the existing open source, and on the other hand we can build an isolated, an island operating system of itself in there. So the goal is really by layering it in high level and low level and no impedance mismatch between it, eventually we're targeting everything. You know, world dominance.
Are you ready?
I think
yeah.
if we're short on time for the question round, so we can do that in the engineers and beers from 6 to 8.
Yep.
And hopefully it will start a little earlier, but in any case
it starts in 20 minutes.
The cafe will be open.
Yeah,
so,
I think we
so
can just go over there.
Yeah.
They're probably setting up right now.